All right, let me welcome everyone to the December 29th meeting of the Health and Education Committee. Before we begin, I need to read the electronic notice regarding a meeting announcement, and I would ask for a motion when I conclude. This meeting of the Health and Education Committee is being conducted electronically pursuant to Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order 16. I would ask for a motion that conducting the meeting electronically is necessary to protect public health, safety, and welfare in light of the coronavirus.
Madam Chairman, so moved.
Thank you. That was Commissioner Gurley. Commissioner Phillips with the second.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Rachel, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Cook? Commissioner Key? Commissioner Gammon?
Here.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Thank you. All right, our next order of business is to approve the minutes from our previous meeting. Have a motion for that?
Madam Chairman, I move that the minutes be approved as presented.
Very good. And do we have a second?
Second.
Good. I think that was a tie between Gammon and Phillips. Rachel, you choose.
All right, Phillips.
And then call the roll for us on that.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes, thank you. All right, next we have the Health Department report. LaShanne, Dr. McDonald, welcome.
Welcome.
Hi. Hi.
Mayor Ketchum, Madam Chairman, and Commissioners of the committee, good evening. Tonight, I'll be presenting the Health Department report of the Community Health Outreach and COVID-19 updates alongside Dr. Lauren McDonald, who will also have a little bit of time to talk briefly about the COVID-19 vaccine updates. So please take a look at the November 2020 report of Community Health Outreach. Our 3 columns, still labeled Protect, Promote, and Improve, once again have not changed much as our staff continues to work hard to ensure that we test, as well as vaccinate and provide education and guidance to help mitigate the spread of COVID-19 in our county. COVID-19 update, testing. So we have had a lot of changes that have happened since our last meeting. I just want to update everyone on. So we continue to offer our drive-through COVID-19 testing at our Murfreesboro site, located here at 100 West Burton Street, at no charge to anyone who wishes to be tested. The drive-through testing is taking place on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8:30 to 12. Tests are free without restrictions. We are currently doing the oral pharyngeal swabs and continue to work all areas of public health investigation that goes along with positive cases and their contacts 7 days a week. What is also new is that we are doing the Everlywell COVID-19 self-test kits, which are being offered to adults on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. This began on December the 21st. Test results could be available within 72 hours of arrival to the lab, depending on the volume of the test that the lab received. On these days, our public health staff members are providing self-test kits to adults who wish to be tested. Individuals during this time will remain in their vehicles while completing the paperwork and collecting their samples. The health departments will also submit the samples, and the participants will complete their registration and receive their results online. Self-tests are not approved for children under the age of 18. However, children and adults who are unable to register online can receive the standard drive-through nasal pharyngeal swabs on those Tuesdays and Thursdays. So once again, we're still providing testing options for anyone in our public 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 8 to 1. Vaccination. So we also start.
LaShanne, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let me ask you a question real quick. Okay, you said the Tuesday, Thursday was from 8:30 to 12. Was that right?
Yes.
And then the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you said that's from 8 to 1?
Yes, and these times are subject to change, as we know with everything that's happened. So this is very fluid, and there'll be some more information that will actually be coming out tomorrow in regards to our times of vaccinations and testing efforts, because we're going to try to move more towards vaccination efforts, to move more toward the preventative measures, and then also still have space available to have some of the testing completed here locally.
Okay, and then do you need to have symptoms in order to request a test? Because I know there's some
No.
facilities that will not test without symptoms.
So we are still continuing to test anyone with or without symptoms. And once again, it's free of charge to anyone who wishes to be tested. No appointment is necessary. You can just come to the health department during those times. And if you're coming to the drive-thru, we'll get you in and get you out. If you are staying to do the self-test, you will have to complete that on site yourself. We do ask that if you are doing the self-test, that you have a smart device that has internet capabilities to be able to complete the online registration form yourself, and then also be able to complete the self-test, administer it to yourself inside your car, and then we'll collect that and we will take it off for it to be shipped to the site.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. As far as our vaccination efforts, our first vaccination was delivered and actually given to a paramedic here in Murfreesboro by Dr. Piercy herself, our Commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Health last week. So that was the first vaccination. And so we have roughly given out about 800 vaccines since last Monday. The Tennessee allocation timeline and phases is posted on the Tennessee Department of Health's website. Also, it lists additional facts, answers, and questions about the vaccine plan, and then also about what phase you fall in. We have received a lot of calls in regards to how am I going to be notified about what phase I'll be falling in, or how do I get an appointment. So there is no special appointment schedule currently that we are holding on to. Everyone who is an employer will be notified from the Department of Health in regards to what phase that you will fall in, but you can also go to the Tennessee Department of Health's website, which is where I would definitely recommend that people go to, and that will be the most up-to-date information. Once again, this information is being updated daily, if not weekly, and I know the running facts, answering questions is updated every Wednesday. And so checking that website every Wednesday as far as the vaccine allocation phases. Currently, we are in 1A1, which is all of our high exposure healthcare workers, our residents and staff of long-term care facilities and first responders, and moving into 1A2, which is all other healthcare workers. So they will be reached out to from their employer as far as when they need to be vaccinated and where to be vaccinated. The main thing with our vaccine allocation phases is equity, and so making sure that we are being considerate of that. Each population group in which we are going through the phases, vaccine is going to be prioritized based off of geographical areas identified through the CDC's Social Vulnerability Index and other specific index that the Tennessee Department of Health has used. And so we are ensuring that anyone who is coming to be vaccinated through our pods are falling within those vaccination phases that we have identified within the Tennessee Department of Health vaccination plan. Additionally, as a reminder, the Rutherford County Health Department will be closed and will not provide testing and or vaccines on Thursday and Friday of this week. However, we will still continue to contact and investigate all positive cases and their contacts as we normally still would do 7 days a week. At this time, I will also allow Dr. Mack to add any additional things and open the floor up for any questions that anyone may have.
The vaccines have gone really well, just so that you can get a picture in your mind of how it works. We have some of the sheriff's office helping us control the crowds and make sure the right people are getting in. They come to a table with our admin people that have been working with us for the last 6 months out there testing. They're asked very specific questions, not difficult questions, to make sure that they're eligible and that they want the vaccine. Once that's done, the gym is a beautiful place to have it at Siegel, I will say that. They can walk along the cones to where the nurses station is on the other side of the basketball court. There's like 6 or 8 desks set up with our vaccinators. I'm not sure that's a word, but and then they get vaccinated and they're out the door pretty quickly. I'd say the whole process probably lasts 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. Everybody has been really orderly and straightforward. We've had no real issues. They then go outside and wait 15 minutes to make sure. We have our paramedics out there and some EMS people just to make sure that there's no adverse effects. We haven't had any. The questions I get the most are, allergic reactions to other things, and they're on some certain medications, and how will that interfere. And basically my role is to make sure that, people are, the biggest one is being like, I'm pregnant, I'm breastfeeding. And so, there's been some guidance from obstetrics and the obstetrics associations about that. People that are on biologic drugs for their Crohn's disease, etc., assuring them that it's not a live vaccine, making sure that they're eligible for it. And if they've had any anaphylaxis, that's the biggie, because, most of them are to peanuts or, bumblebees, which of course wouldn't make any sense, but I talked to all of them, and people are being very orderly, and they're being very good about being very truthful about everything, and it's going well. We're getting good at it. I think we'll pick it up. We'll pick up our pace, but keeping in mind that we have to keep people away from each other. So far, so good. And we've had no reactions. We've had a couple of folks complain, like the next day, most of our own staff. Everybody gets the sore arm. Yeah, you get that with everything. And some fatigue, but I don't know whether the fatigue the next day is because it was Christmas and we all had a couple days off. I realized how darn tired everybody really is, but everybody was back at it the next day, so pretty happy with the way it's going.
Excellent. So what is your goal in terms of vaccines a day? Or are you even timing it that way and trying to do like per week? You'd like to do so many. Do you have any sort of a goal?
So currently our goal that we saw that we can meet is 90 an hour. And so an output of 90 an hour is what we're kind of looking at. And we're actually going to put this to test a little bit tomorrow as we're continuing doing our 1A1 population and our 1A2 population. And so we will see what that will be. And then as we get better at this and potentially be able to open and expand this to the public, we hope to be able to vaccinate even more and anyone who is really wanting it on that day. And so we're looking at some different logistical things that we can do to help ensure that anyone who wants to receive a vaccine will be able to do that within a timely fashion.
It's a bit of we have a bit of balls in the air because the vaccine's fussy, and that once you thaw it and it's ready to be used, it has to be used within a certain period of time. Like they hand me a vaccine and say, this one has to be used by 1:51 p.m. So we're always out there kind of in the parking lot doing the surveillance because we don't want to get a bunch of vaccine that we can't use. And that's been really important, and we have done a great job at that. If we have a couple left over and our staff here in the front office isn't really a 1A1, they're kind of a 1A2, we'll come in and we'll use the last couple on that. The interesting thing that's kind of curious is that, and you may have heard this with the Pfizer vaccine, which we have Moderna, but if you remember that people talked about pulling up the vaccine and they had little bits of extra dose in each vial, we're finding that too. So we're averaging probably about 10 to 12 freebies every time we have a set that we thaw out. So that's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
We have more vaccine than we thought we would have.
How many staff members does it take for you to deliver 90 vaccines an hour? I'm just curious, how many people does that equate to?
So right now we're running roughly about 30, and that's helping with line management, also with registration, and then with vaccines, and then helping also with anything else additionally that we may need, from running things back and forth. So about roughly 30 staff members, and that's our staff that we currently have, and then also some of our contract staff that we're working alongside with as well. But we definitely would not be able to do this without our amazing community partners, without EMA, without fire, police, EMTs, everyone else that is there, and then also without Siegel High School allowing us to be there during this time. So very grateful to them and them allowing their staff to be there to help make sure that we can administer this vaccine.
We also have our front office staff, a little panel of them in the back. So as soon as you get your vaccine in your arm, all of that information on you is entered real time into TENNIS, which is our immunization system, so that we can pull you up and make sure that, for all sorts of reasons, if someone goes AWOL, we'll know, hey, you only got 2 days to get this. And we haven't gotten that far. That would be the shot number 2. But all of that stuff is done, put into the system, so that we know every single person that's been vaccinated is in the computer by the end of that by the end of that session.
That's awesome. I could continue to ask you question after question, but I'm going to open it up to the other committee members. Commissioner Blair, you got a question?
Yes, ma'am. Is there a choice to get the Pfizer or the Moderna, or you just have to take what's offered?
We're giving, we just have Moderna, and so that's what we're giving out. If we do and when we do receive the Pfizer vaccine, it will be whatever that we have on site that day. And so it will really just depend on how many vaccines that we have available. So there really won't be a huge choice. Both vaccines we are shown are both proven to be very successful. And so both of them are gold standard in reality when we're looking at them. So it will really just be whatever we have on site on that day.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman,
You have to make sure that everybody gets the same vaccine. You start with Moderna, you end with Moderna. Because there's been no studies to say, can you switch companies? So
That's a great point.
logistics, but we'll get it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't even thought about that. You have to keep track of that. Commissioner Phillips, you had a question?
yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. The question that I have is I know frontline workers are getting it now, and that's the way that it should be. But what about regular people? Well, what about like school board members, teachers? When are they going to be into the system? And also just regular people. How do we know, as just regular citizens, when to call or when to find out that it's going to be available to us? How would we know that?
Oh, yeah. So on the Tennessee Department of Health website, we do have the phase allocations and which phase that you will fall into. What will happen is once we get to our next phase, if you are in that phase, we will utilize our public information officers to get this information out to you by various social media means. Also the television channels that will let you know too which phase that we're in, so that you'll be notified and also know where to come to. So we're still in the process of logistically making sure that we can get this information out in a timely fashion to make sure that we are administering the doses to those who need it first. And so when looking at that plan, and once again, this plan is ever changing daily as we are looking at it. So the high risk individuals with comorbidities will actually fall into that 1B subgroup. And then it'll go into this group 2, phase 2, which is our critical infrastructure, our school healthcare staff, those with congregate care facilities and then corrections, and then we go into the young adults, children, industry, and then all others. And so just looking at the phases, and there's some rationale behind the reason why those phases were done in that manner. One is because a lot of the vaccine studies have not been done on younger children, which is why they're waiting to hold it off for them. But then additionally, just making sure that we're kind of ensuring that we have vaccine available for all the subgroups. And then also trying to just manage that and making sure we can get those doses in people's arms within a timely fashion within that day or within that week. And then also looking at the second dose, because that's another thing that we have to look at. So we just started vaccines last week. And so from 28 days from last week, we'll start doing this again for another set of population, in addition to continue to go through the rest of the phases. And so logistically, just making sure that we have the manpower in order to be able to administer the vaccine is going to be crucial. And the reason why we looked at that kind of infrastructure and why the CDC and the Tennessee Department of Health decided to do that. But once again, I would highly advise everyone to look at the Tennessee Department of Health vaccination plan, and you will have that document. It is updated very frequently so that you'll kind of see what phase that you fall in, and then also we'll make sure that it's updated on the county government's page, and then the health department's web page. We're also trying to make sure that we're keeping it up to date as well.
So if I consider myself as an example, I fit in this phase, what do I do? What do I do?
So
Okay, I'm in the phase now, what do I do?
So what you would do from there, what we're currently doing with those individuals is we're talking to the employers and we're giving them a link to complete, which they will sign up for an appointment. It will have different days on there as well as the times and the location of the vaccine and where you'll be able to receive it. And then you'll come in and follow the steps that Dr. McDonald just talked about from once you arrive, you're there at the registration. The registration will then ask you a couple of questions to make sure you fall within that subgroup, and then you'll be able to be vaccinated from there. So the main thing right now that we're asking for people to do is just to stay up to date as far as what subgroups that we're falling into. And once we get to that subgroup, you will receive additional information. This all, once again, is very fluid document and very fluid information that we're given. So it may change by the time that we get to your actual phase. And so just bear with us as we're moving through the different phases. We found things that worked last week, they're not working this week, and vice versa. And so we're just trying to move through them as efficiently as we can, but also making sure that we can administer the vaccine to those, once again, who needs it the most.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Shan, I think one of his questions may have been, because I know that I was listening for this answer, are you only going to be able to get the vaccine from the health department, or will our primary care physicians at some point have those and be able to deliver those to us?
So the ultimate goal is for your primary care physician to hopefully be able to receive those vaccines and be able to deliver to you as well. And so the Tennessee Department of Health is working alongside with a lot of the businesses, larger corporations and businesses within our county, as well as with employers and primary care physicians to be able to administer this as well. So it's, of course, a process that they have to go through, because even with the Moderna to the Pfizer vaccine, it's completely different in the way that you store it and the way that you handle it. And so even our staff, we've gone through extensive training over the past 2 weeks so that we'll know about Moderna, but also know about Pfizer and any other vaccine that may come down the pipeline as well. So I think it's going to be very important that we just try to bear with us as we're going through this process, but we do hope, in the near future that your primary care physician will be able to provide this vaccine to you as well.
And then what about that second shot? Is there anything magic about that timeline? Like, for example, life happens, and let's say somebody, for whatever reason, can't get there at day 28. Is there some wiggle room, or what happens? Is there a point in time where they just have to start all over? How does that work?
Yeah, sure.
Well, with the Moderna vaccine, like, I was vaccinated on the 23rd, so my next vaccine is the 20th, and you've got a couple of days in front of and a couple of days behind. So you've got a time period. Now, none of this is written in stone, and we don't know if somebody suddenly had something happen to them. Are we going to withhold a second vaccine? I doubt that very, very, very much. It's just that we always have to go back to the literature. We know from the studies that they were done very rigorously, and this is what we found, the 95% effectiveness or 94.5% effectiveness based on this exact times frame. So, like LaShawn said, it's all new to us. I mean, this is a new thing, but we're telling people when we give them their vaccination cards, we're telling them to take a picture of it, and I'm telling them to send it to their best buddy and also their spouse, so that if they show up for number 2 and say, I don't have my card, pull out your phone, honey, and show us what the picture looks like, so we don't have to go into tennis, and that would just hold us up. We're trying to anticipate those kind of things.
Great.
We'll make sure everything's done on time, and the people that have come for vaccines, they really are listening, and they want to do everything right. This isn't a typical in my medical career, which has been long now. I've not seen too many people be so compliant, so it's a pleasant thing to see.
So, as you have people move through the phases, let's say, for example, by the time you get to school teachers, you have only part of that population that's willing to actually take the shot. But then somewhere, now we've moved on to the next phase, and now a teacher's changed her mind and she wants the shot. So does she just get to kind of jump back in at any point in that process? How does that work?
Yeah, so anyone who wants to, if we've already passed that phase and they decide they want to come back to get the actual vaccine, we will open doors for them to come back to get that vaccine. So we're not going to say they have to wait again. They can still come back to be vaccinated at any time after their phase is completed.
Okay, very good. Okay, I told y'all I could keep asking question after question. Does anybody else have anything they want to know?
Just one quick follow-up. You keep mentioning, and I keep going back to this because I have a mother-in-law who's 88 years old, and my wife and I are her primary caregivers, our constant 24-hour-a-day caregivers. She's not in a nursing home. So how do I know when she's eligible for this? And that was what my question was trying to ask a while ago. You kept mentioning employers and things like that, but You know, I've got an elderly mother-in-law who we take care of, live with, take care of, and what does someone like me know how to do to get her a vaccination? And I just am once again trying to ask a question that I think other people out there might have on their minds.
Yes, sir, exactly. So in that case, in which we have had individuals who have called here to the health department, we do welcome people to call here if they have questions about what the phases that they're in and or just general questions about the vaccine and or about testing. And so as we are receiving additional information from the State Department of Health, we will make sure the information is disseminated out in various ways. And so once again, we do utilize our public information officers. Ashley McDonald has been a tremendous asset to us here at the health department, making sure this information is being disseminated on the various social media channels that the county government has, as well as our newspapers. The DNJ has been great as far as putting information out for us, and then our local news stations. And so that's how we will get the information out. So once again, just asking that you bear with us as we are trying to get this information out the best way that we can think about doing it. If you have any ideas or suggestions for us, we will welcome those as well. As we're trying to, disseminate this information. But I would definitely say keep your eyes open. We are looking for, looking to get some more information out from the State Department of Health. Press releases are being put out weekly, it seems like, in regards to the phases and kind of what the processes are and what we're doing and kind of how we're moving forward, as well as I know the commissioners do weekly press releases and press conferences with the governor to talk through the phases and kind of talk through where we are in the state of Tennessee. So I would just suggest and recommend that you all kind of stay abreast to those things that are being put out there. I know that it's be inconvenient maybe to some people to actually have to sit there and kind of wait, but we're just trying to work through it as best as we can.
Understand. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
LaShann, do you know if there's anywhere in that phasing that takes into consideration people like Jeff who might be caring for someone who's immune compromised, and would that move where they might normally be in a phase if they were living with someone who might be immune compromised?
So yes, the document does address some of those concerns in there, and I think it's something that is going to be discussed here in the next week or so. So once again, I would just say, just stay up to date and looking at what the Tennessee Department of Health is going to be putting out and looking at, because I know there has been a major concern across the state. I know there's some things that we have received here, within the Department of Health here locally, that people had some of those similar issues and concerns. And so we have sent it up the chain, and we're just waiting for information to come back to us so that we can be able to disseminate it out to our respective residents here in our county.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions for Health Department? I have one last question for you all, and that is there anything you need from us? Is there anything that we can do to support you better in your efforts?
I think you all kind of hit it on the head. As well as as far as we continue to receive information, just continue to disseminate that information out as best as you can to your various family and friends. We do know that historically, even with dealing with vaccines and dealing with other things within public health, it really does come down to, that family structure. And your family, you depend and lean on them, sometimes even more than your own doctor and provider. And so providing that information, looking and fact-checking things, as well, looking at the CDC, looking at the Tennessee Department of Health for information and guidance to be able to share with your respective communities, but then also within your family structures, because they're looking to you for the guidance. You all are the leaders here in Rexford County, and so we just want to continue to make sure that we're providing information that is fact-finding, but then also making sure that we're providing the same information across all means to ensure that, once again, we're getting vaccines, but then also if people need to be tested, that we're also testing them and that they're aware of our testing schedules and times and dates throughout the week.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate you all so much. You're doing a fantastic job and just under extraordinary circumstances. And so I just don't think we can say thank you enough and appreciate you all enough. So if there is anything that we can do as a body, please, I hope you will ask.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no more questions for the Health Department report, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I move to approve.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, second, Wayne Blair.
Very good. Thank you. Rachel, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Commissioner
Love you.
Bennett?
Bye.
Commissioner Gammon?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Gorley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes, very good. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Okay, our next item is the community care report. And Rachel, I think I see the mayor beside you.
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, would you like to share with us any updates for community care?
I'd be happy to, Madam Chair. Members, I had Rachel send out to you a copy of the letter that I sent out to all the residents and family members of the residents. And also was another letter, should be on your SharePoint, that was an introductory letter about Mr. David Zack. Mr. David Zack kind of gave a background in his letter of who he is and what he has done. Community Care Board of Directors, we have signed a contract with United Church Homes Management. United Church Homes is based out of Marion, Ohio. They are a faith-inspired, not-for-profit senior living provider. They've got over 100-year history in this industry, serving older adults. They operate 75 senior living facilities in 14 different states and on 2 Indian reservations. They provide independent living, assisted living, memory care, short-term skilled rehab, long-term care, and affordable housing to older adults. You can go onto the website that's on the letter that's on your SharePoint if you want to check them out a little bit closer to their website. Their mission and values are very close to ours in community care. We were able to run into them when we were having difficulty trying to find somebody in the pandemic to replace Mr. Cothran, who had turned in his letter of resignation effective January the 4th, which is next week of 21. And Mr. Bonry, who works for Mr. Spurlock's father, had retired from this industry and happened to know of this company. They put us in touch. We interviewed them, talked to them to see if we gelled with the same type philosophy, and we have. So we have contractually contracted with them. It's a 3-year contract. We have a 1-year option not to continue in that contract. It's an out clause after the first year to reevaluate the contract. But they'll be coming in effective January 4th. Mr. David Zack will take over as the executive director, while actually Mary Beth, who is our Merriman, I believe. Is that correct? Bayman. Mary Beth Bayman is our director of nursing, and she has expressed an interest in sitting for the exam. But in Tennessee, to get your director's license, you have to sit for 6 months in a shadowing type position under a current administrator, kind of a proctor type position. And so at the end of the 6 months, if she sits for the exam, passes it, then she would go to work for them, but still running community care. All the other employees still remain employees of community care of Rutherford County. Not of Rutherford County, but of community care. So we think this is going to be a good marriage for us. They have opportunities, buying power, because they have so many different homes of buying anywhere from PPE to other contracts that they would need to buy. They have a marketing program. They have a department that can help get word out to like the Veterans Administration, to other hospitals that we are open for rehab, etc. So we think it's really going to enhance our nursing home out there. And we are also ready this next week to start the construction on the wing that we've been waiting for. We're going to be able to coordinate that off from the rest of the facility. We are zero. We got beat up in the paper today, but that's old information. Today, Community Care Rutherford County has 0 positive patients and 0 positive staff members from COVID, which is really, really good for us. So knock on wood, it continues. So we're excited about the new coming year. Just make sure everybody eats your black-eyed peas, and we'll keep that good luck going. Thank you. That's it. Any questions?
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions for Mayor Ketron? The minutes of the community care meeting are also on your SharePoint. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to take a look at those. And if there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion to accept the community care report. I see mouth moving, but everybody's muted.
Move to approve, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Very good. Thank you. Rachel, you call the roll for us?
Commissioner Gammon.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Blair. Turn your microphone on, Commissioner Blair.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Gurley.
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner Key.
Yes.
Chairman Allen.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is the special projects report. Ms. Jolly sent that out to us, I believe, yesterday. Pretty straightforward. Mr. Sprack, is Doug there with you?
He is here with me.
Thank you. I'm just curious, do you know how much longer it's going to be before we can close out the Rocky Fork Elementary? Because the construction's 100% complete, but we've only spent 89.72% of that budget. And I know that's always furniture, fixture, and equipment. That's always the lag. But I was just curious to know when we'll be able to close that one out.
Yeah, he's planning on bringing it forward next month.
Okay. Very good. All right. Anyone else have any questions on the special projects report? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Rachel, call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley.
Yes.
Commissioner Gammon.
Yes.
Commissioner Key.
Yes.
Commissioner Blair.
Yes.
Chairman Allen.
Yes, thank you. All right, Mrs. Spurlock, you're up.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We've got 2 amendments tonight. However, the second amendment we want to table due to some preliminary information that we received on the COVID relief money. So we'll table that until next month. So we're going to start with the amendment for operating costs for the opening of Plainview Elementary. This amendment budget is $90,629 for a short duration during this current fiscal year for a school principal, an assistant principal, 2 clerical employees, and a lead custodian in order to begin operations for the Plainview Elementary before we open it. Additionally, this amendment moves $1,500,000 from unassigned fund balance to committed fund balance to cover the first year of operating costs for the school. Now, it should be noted that the current state VEP funding structure will not pay for any of the new administrative costs that will be incurring until the 2022-2023 funding year due to these deficiencies. Are there any questions?
I've got a couple, and I'm just trying to better understand some of this, Madam Chairman. If I might.
I'm giving you all kinds of permission and I'm muted, so yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. My computer connection is is really weak, and I'm going in and out sometimes. So I hope I can get all this out. The $90,000. We're going to use that this spring to make those staff additions. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, very good. And that's commonly what we do when we're ready to open up a school for the following year. So this money in essence, is already budgeted, that $90,000. But the 1.5 million in unassigned fund balance, I'm trying to understand why that's in unassigned fund balance if we were planning on using that this year.
Yeah, I think we had in the past. In fact, I know we did for the Rockville and the Rocky Fork Elementary. We did set that aside, and actually we had to come back and get permission twice because I think we did it earlier until the end of the fiscal year, and then we had to repurpose that money, amend and repurpose, and then come back and ask again. So I think instead of going out on a limb and doing it twice, I think that was probably the reason why it wasn't put in that fund balance, or put in that line item prior to this asking for this request.
Are we going to use that money?
Yes. What will happen is a lot of your operational costs, everything about the bill, we will not incur any, or will not receive any revenue prior to the end of the next fiscal year.
I understand, but my question was, are we going to use that 1.5 before we go through the budget process this summer?
Well, we've done it before now, and we did it for the Rockville High School and the Rock Springs Elementary. We will obviously we will not be using any of this money until the operations get started. But we will start needing that.
Okay, well, that was my question. Why not just put it in part of the budget process for next year as a designated fund instead of using an unassigned fund? I'm just wondering why we need it now instead of designating it at the end of the year.
Yeah, like I said, you're absolutely right. We have done that before, and we've done it the other way. I think we did it the other way, but I mean that's up to you guys. We're going to request it, and when we're in the budget, we'll request it now.
That's kind of what's been running through my mind. I'm trying to figure out why, if we needed that 1.5 this year, why it wasn't designated this year and put in unassigned fund, and then why not, if we don't need it until after the budget process, why not just use it as a designated fund at that particular time? I'm just trying to understand that a little better.
You're absolutely right. We can do it like that. I think probably what we were looking at is trying to be a little conservative in terms of what we would need there.
Yeah.
And making sure as we go into this budget process that we didn't pile on a little bit. But,
yeah, I understand.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Mr. Sparlett, you and Doug maybe both can refresh my memory as well. But as I was looking at that, I thought I remembered that it felt a little clumsy last time because
we actually
we had to keep bringing it back through at different times.
Yeah, and I think it was and I had Doug go back and look at the information on the minutes on it. I think it was somewhere in 2017, 2018 where there was a request for funding for both Rockville, and I think it was, I want to say it was 2.5 million, but for Rockville and Rock Springs Elementary, and it was actually at the end it was amended out, because out of the budget and rolled over due to the fact obviously we had to clear out the books, and then it was taken up again I think in May of 2018. I think it was May of 2018. It was brought back forward again and requested again.
And so, how will this? And I think this may be to Mr. Phillips' point. When we assign this money, the 1.5, into the operating funds for next year, when we are crafting the budget that will be effective July 1, if there's a balance in this fund, where will that money live and what will happen to it?
Yeah, that would just, if there's a balance in that, it would just still be, it would be carried over, amended and carried over.
Okay, because I know, like, for example, with purchase orders.
That's what we did, quite frankly, I asked Doug the same thing, because when we went back, we did the same thing. We requested the 2.5 back in 2017, 18, somewhere, and then we had to amend it, and then we came back and asked again. So you're right. I mean, that was what would occur.
You guys know 100% more than I know about this, but in my mind, it was in unassigned. It was in unassigned fund balance, but it was designated for this purpose. But we weren't intending to use that until we went through the budget process, and then we would designate it. And that's the reason for my question:
Sure.
What has changed? And I'm thinking that if we go through the budget process and then assign this, that's the correct procedure to go through. I don't know if it makes a hill of beans worth of difference.
Well, I mean, I don't think we would disagree with that. I mean, obviously, I think if the last time we had to do it twice, I'd rather do it just once.
I have a question.
Commissioner Gurley?
Hold on a minute. Hold on 1 minute. Let me talk to Doug here. Doug, can you get online?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment that it seems like, I think part of the case of when this might get used is exactly when that school gets finished and we take possession of it, actually start operations. And if we don't intend to do that until at the earliest August, but if it comes up sooner than that, then it might be wise to go ahead and appropriate this and make it quite simple, really. We're going to have to spend the money at some point in time.
Yeah, one of the things that we do have to, of course, in that money is for some of the equipment in the building and things of that nature. But I'm going to let Doug speak on that a little bit.
Thank you.
I see them in the link.
Mr. Spillick, is Doug trying to get online? There he is. Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I was saying something very eloquent there, but it was you.
The word. Sorry, you're gonna have to be eloquent again.
You do it twice.
Yes, what I was saying was, just like Mr. Phelps or Commissioner Phelps said, was it can be done either way with committing this. The reason that I wanted to commit this, I spoke to Mr. Sandvig, and we have done this in the county one time before of committing funds for when Rockville High opened. And the thought, of course, is like Commissioner Phillips said, we can do it either way. And I've seen in other counties when I was working on budgets at the last job was they wouldn't commit the funds early in the budget process like we're looking at doing this right now. We would just address it at budget time. This was being a conservative approach to let the school board, we've got several new ones, and also county commissioners that are new to that process, to say, hey, this money, we're going to need some money out of fund balance when we open this school, because it's going to be a year before quite a bit of BP funding for costs that are going to be incurred at that new school, be it new administrators, any type of growth positions, that's going to be an incurred cost. And we're not going to see revenue from BEP funding for a year. Now, that said, we could, if you would like, we could amend this and say, okay, we're not going to commit the 1.5 million. We're just going to budget for that portion. Right now, we're just going to budget for that portion of salaries for these administrative positions for this fiscal year we're in now. We need that budget amendment for that.
The 90,000.
Yes. And then we address the 1.5 or, the additional costs in the budget time when we come in here and when we're looking at this in April and May. This whole point is just to let folks know this is coming early on in the budget.
Doug, let me just muddy the water a little bit more. And the reason I'm going to do that is because my mind is still a little bit muddy on this. I know that with everything that you guys have gone through this year, like with shutting down schools and attendance issues and all of those kinds of things, I'm concerned that the BEP funds that you just mentioned may not be nowhere nearly available as they have in the past. And if we commit this $1.5 million right now, and the BEP funds go haywire and they don't send us the funds that we think they ought to be sending us because of attendance figures and growth figures and other kinds of things, then we may need to use some of that unassigned fund balance just to do things to get us through.
Yeah, one of the things
there.
Yeah, one of the things the governor is there's several things that he spoke on today that he's calling a session on January the 19th, I think it is. Hold harmless BEP for 1 year.
Oh, good.
And that, which means that, even though we do have some attrition, in fact, we currently have 46,863 enrolled. That is approximately 1,029 less than last year, but we know they're coming back. We know a lot are from our 6th grade. In some of our schools where half have enrolled. Instead of going to our county school, they chose to go to the city school because they opened up earlier than we did. We know that we've had a tremendous increase in homeschooling due to the pandemic, and it's way over what we had previously. We know those are coming back, and we also know that our kindergarten enrollment is significantly down. So that's going to hold. The BEP, we've been told pretty, solid that we will be held harmless. All districts will be held harmless on that. And what Doug is talking about, this funding that like you mentioned, you're right, that we're requesting, that can be, like you said, it can be, we can wait later on in the spring before we even have to bring that up. But all we need currently is this salary for these positions.
Thank you, Mr. Spurlock. I appreciate you clearing that up for me.
Yes.
But, Madam Chairman, I don't know what other questions that we have, but I would feel more comfortable in going ahead and proving the 90,000?
90,629.
I would feel real comfortable in approving that and holding off on that undesignated fund balance until some of the things that Mr. Spurlock has mentioned would be cleared up maybe later on in January, that type of thing, and delay approving that until some other things become a little bit more clear to me. I would move that we approve the 90,629 and delay that 1.5 million until later on this year.
Is there a second for that motion?
Second, Madam Chairman, Wayne Blair.
Very good. Any discussion, questions? I have one thing I just want to add, and this is really more for the general public to make sure that they understand, and that two things are happening right now. One, we're basically announcing that we're earmarking 1.5 for operational costs. We knew we were going to have to front the operational costs that first year anyway. We're just not advancing at this moment. But it is kind of public knowledge now that that money is not going to be available in unassigned fund balance for other things, because we're going to need it to open these schools.
That's the way it's always been.
Exactly. And then the second thing that I want to make sure that the public knows is that when we talk about unassigned fund balance, we're not talking about county general. We're talking about unassigned fund balance that already resides inside of the school's budget. And it's always to our advantage that they are so fiscally conservative and so fiscally responsible that they are able to front these kinds of operational costs inside their own budget without asking us for money to build the schools and then that first year money of operating expenses. So I just want to make sure that the public knows as we're talking about this, that unassigned fund balance, don't confuse that with county general unassigned fund balance.
That's real quick, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Gurley?
Yes, I think well said, but I would like for us to put on our agenda to come back and look at this again at our January meeting or perhaps our February meeting after the legislature has met and we really and truly know exactly what they're going to be doing, because I really think that if it goes the way we hope it goes with them, that we should probably go ahead sometime within February, March, or no later than April, go ahead and approve this 1.5.
Well, and two, I hope Mr. Spike and Doug both know that if something comes up and you need some portion of this, just like you did with the salaries, if some portion of this comes up and you need it prior to the next budget cycle, that we always have the option to amend that monthly as we go and make sure that you're advancing your operations in that school.
No.
We don't want to hold you up. We want you to be ready to go when it's time to open that school.
Absolutely. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there's no more questions, Rachel, I think we're ready to call the roll.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Key,
Yes.
Commissioner Damon,
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Chairman Allen.
Yes. Thank you very much. And Mr. Spurlock, we appreciate you all so much as well. Is there anything that you can share with us? I know there's a lot of, your situation is very fluid at the school system right now. So what can you share with us regarding scheduling and that sort of thing?
Yeah, what we're doing is we're looking at a hybrid schedule. We've pushed this out to our parents. We've talked to our teachers. This won't impact the K through 5. Our main objectives is we're trying, because of the positive rate, and we're trying to eliminate the number of people on campus at one time. And this will grade 7 through 12 with an alternating schedule. It's a challenge and it's got a lot of pitfalls, and it's definitely not something we want to stay with. But unfortunately, if the virus keeps spreading the way it is, that's our best bet in order to keep people in class at least 2 to 3 days a week.
Very good.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Commissioner Gurley.
Yes, as you well know, and Director Spurlock knows, I've been pushing for the last several years for to look at a hybrid schedule, and I'm sad that it had to be, but I think we're finding that we can do business in a different way, and so I would urge the board members and administrators to take note from this, especially in the realm of technology as it exists today, that we can learn in more than one way. So it's really so I commend them for doing this and really looking look out for the health and well-being of both our teachers and our students.
Yes, very good. Any other comments or questions for?
If I might, I had a real nervousness about our attendance being down in BEP funds, and Superintendent Spurlock has really eased those concerns about the meeting that he has scheduled with the governor. I think on the 19th. We meet the week after that, and he'll have hopefully some additional information that will really ease our minds on those BEP fundings by then. And that was a real nervous point that I had, Superintendent, and I'm glad that that's set up. And if it happens the way that you explained it, that will ease a lot of our budgetary concerns going into this budget year. Also, one other thing, I know in our budget we collect some in lieu of taxes from Murfreesboro Electric Company, and since that's been sold, how are some of those funds that have been in our budget that we usually transfer, I think, maybe back to the city of Murfreesboro? How is all that playing out? I think we've got some funds in there or budgeted for this year, and we may not be collecting those. Is that correct?
That is correct. We've got close to $1 million. I think 947,000. Is it? 934,000 that we would get, but it's not there.
So we potentially will be short a little bit there going in. So to be able to come up with some additional funds somehow for that shortfall is going to be also a challenge. So you guys have a lot on your plate. Good luck, partner.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Schroeder, I'll pose the same question to you that I did to the health department, and that is there anything that this body can do for you to support you in any way? I know we've got our meeting coming up, the steering committee does, with our legislative delegation. Is there anything that we can advocate for you? Anything that you would like for us any initiatives that you have in mind that you'd like us to support?
Yeah, the capital project bill, that we've met with our state legislatures, several of them, and that's still on our radar in terms of being able to recoup some of that local money from the state to provide an opportunity to catch up on our capital project program.
Is that the one that was the $7 million?
That was the one for the fastest growing school districts. Okay. That they carried last year until the COVID. Each one that actually sponsored and co-sponsored the bill said it had a great chance of passing last year. Mm-hmm. However, the COVID kind of put a little squash on that.
Yes. Okay. Well, if you think of anything else between now and Monday, please be sure and let us know.
We do appreciate all the good things you guys do for us.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Mayor, Chairman Allen, just one more point. The commission voted 21-0 to approach our legislative delegation too about helping us with some alternative to property taxes. And I know the school board has been instrumental in the past in supporting us with that process. And I think a resolution is coming before the steering committee next Monday night, the 4th, asking for similar help the way we've had in the past. So if the school board, Superintendent Spurlock, if you guys can watch that meeting on next Monday night and see what that resolution is all about. And then if you need some support from or some more information from this commission to present to your board, so hopefully your board can give the commission some support in helping us come up with alternative revenue to property taxes would be greatly appreciated. So if you need help in communicating what we're trying to do to your board, let someone from the steering committee or the mayor's office know, and we can have someone attend a board meeting and go through that resolution with you to see if we can get some support from the school board.
Well, it just so happens, Commissioner Phillips, we have a board meeting on the 5th. So that would be after your meeting. If there's someone could come, we'll put you on the agenda at first, let you, speak on that. So I think that would be very helpful.
Very good. Thank you.
Excellent. Awesome. All right. Is there anything else to come before this body? If not, we are adjourned. I appreciate you all. Stay safe.